The night was quiet, too quiet. The broken world had no birds, no wind strong enough to carry songs, no voices to call out in the dark. Only fire crackled inside a small human camp, and the man who sat near it stared into the flames. His name was Daniel, and he thought he was the last living soul on this dead planet. But he was wrong. Something moved in the shadows. Slow, careful, watching. Her skin glowed faintly like silver under the pale moonlight. She pressed her back against a ruined wall, breathing hard, her hands shaking. Her name was Syria. She belonged to a race that once walked proudly among the stars. Now she was alone. Worse, her body was changing. Her people had a season, every few cycles, that drove them into madness if ignored. A heat inside their blood. A fire in their veins. And for Syria, that season had begun. Her lips trembled as she whispered to herself, "Not now. Not here. Please." Her chest rose and fell rapidly, and her eyes glowed brighter than usual, golden and wet. Her instincts told her to find someone, anyone, to release the unbearable fire inside. But there was no one left. No one except him. Daniel shifted at the fire, a strange feeling creeping into his chest. He had survived war, hunger, and the crushing silence of this world. But tonight, he felt eyes on him. He picked up his rifle and scanned the ruins. "Who's there?" His voice was sharp, controlled. Syria flinched. She wanted to run, but her legs refused. The fire in her blood made her weaker, hungrier. She pressed a hand against her chest and peeked around the wall. The human's eyes caught hers. For a long second, the world stopped. He saw her glowing skin, her trembling form, her beauty mixed with desperation. She saw his broad shoulders, his steady aim, his calm in the face of danger. Neither moved. Daniel lowered the gun a little. "I thought your kind were gone," he muttered. Her lips parted. She wanted to speak, but the heat inside made her voice break. Instead of words, a soft whimper escaped her throat. She stumbled forward into the circle of firelig. Daniel stood quickly, weapon raised again, but he did not fire. She was no enemy soldier, no beast. She looked fragile. Dangerous, yes, but not with claws or teeth. Something else. Something he couldn't name. Her knees buckled, and she almost fell into the fire. Daniel caught her by instinct, grabbing her arms and pulling her back. Her skin burned hot against his hands, almost feverish. "Easy," he said through gritted teeth. "What's wrong with you?" Syria's lips trembled. "The season. It has started." Her words came broken, like each one cost her strength. Daniel frowned. "Season?" She nodded weakly, her head falling against his chest. If I can't, I will die." The man stiffened. He wasn't a fool. He had seen enough in his years to know when someone was hiding truth. But he also felt her body burning against his. This wasn't just a trick. She was sick or cursed. Or both. He guided her gently to a rock near the fire and let her sit. She hugged herself, rocking back and forth, fighting the urge to touch him again. Her glowing eyes followed every breath he took, every twitch of his muscles. "Why me?" Daniel asked coldly. Her answer came in a whisper, but it carried more weight than a scream. "Because you're the only one left." The fire popped loudly, as if marking the moment. The night pressed in around them. Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle, but his eyes never left hers. The alien girl, glowing faintly in the firelight, looked less like a threat and more like a curse laid upon him. He had wanted peace, silence, the end of war and company. But now this strange creature begged with her eyes for something he wasn't ready to give. Syria's breathing grew ragged. She leaned closer, as if drawn by some invisible pull. Her golden eyes shimmered, and for a second, Daniel thought he saw a tear fall down her cheek. "I don't want to hurt you," she whispered. "But I can't stop it." Daniel's jaw tightened. His survival instinct screamed at him to push her away, to run, to hide deeper into the wasteland. But another part of him, a part that had been buried under loneliness, kept him still. Her hands shook as she reached toward him, stopping just short of his arm, trembling in the heat of her own need. "Please, don't leave me." The human stared at her, his breath caught between anger and pity. He had faced many dangers, but this was different. This was not a fight against a beast or a soldier. This was a fight against himself. The fire crackled again. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the silence of the world was broken only by her desperate breathing and the pounding of his own heart. And then suddenly, her body gave way. Syria collapsed forward, her head landing against his shoulder, her whole body trembling in his arms. Daniel froze, his rifle slipping from his hand. Her last whisper before she lost control sent a shiver down his spine. "You don't understand, human. I can't survive this alone." The night seemed to grow darker, heavier, as if the stars themselves held their breath. And Daniel realized with dread, this was only the beginning. The fire burned low, throwing long shadows across the ruins. Daniel sat stiffly, his eyes never leaving the alien girl who leaned weakly against a stone. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, like embers struggling not to die out. She wasn't asleep, but caught between pain and fever, whispering words in a tongue he barely understood. Daniel rubbed his temples. He had fought soldiers, beasts, and starvation. But this was different. This was a problem his rifle couldn't solve. At last, her eyes fluttered open. Golden and wet, they locked onto him again. For a moment, she looked fragile, almost human. But then her lips parted, and her voice trembled. "You don't understand. My body, it's burning inside." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. He could hear the desperation in her tone. It wasn't a trick. Her body was really fighting something. He leaned closer, though his rifle was still within reach. "What do you mean? Burning how?" he asked. Her hands shook as she held them out, showing the faint glow beneath her skin. "My people, we are tied to the cycle. When it begins, we must bond or we fade. The heat consumes us until nothing is left." Daniel frowned. Bond. He didn't like that word. It sounded less like medicine and more like chains. "Then why me?" he demanded. His voice carried the sharpness of a man who had been alone too long. Her lips trembled. "Because you are the last one, the only one alive." The words hung heavy in the silence. Daniel looked away, staring into the flames. He had suspected for weeks, maybe months, that he was alone. No radio signals, no camps, no voices. Just ruins and silence. Now this alien girl confirmed it. He was the last human alive on this dead rock. The weight of it pressed down on his chest. He wanted to laugh, but it came out bitter. "So that's it, huh? Out of everyone in the galaxy, it's me. Lucky me." Syria tilted her head, confused by his bitterness. She had expected anger, maybe even fear. But instead, she saw loneliness in his eyes. She inched closer, trembling. "You don't have to be alone anymore." Daniel turned sharply, his gaze hard. "Don't." Her lips parted, but she stopped. He wasn't just warning her, he was warning himself. The fire popped loudly, and both of them flinched at the sound. For a long stretch, there was only silence. Daniel thought of the people he had lost, the home that no longer existed, the battles that had left scars on his body and mind. Syria thought of her people, gone forever, leaving her cursed to face the season alone. Finally, she broke the silence. "When my people bonded, it wasn't just instinct, it was survival. It was life. Without it, the fire inside eats us. Alive, please human, I don't want to die." Her voice cracked on the last word, and something inside Daniel shifted. He clenched his fists, fighting the urge to feel pity. He couldn't afford pity, not here. "Not now." Still, he asked quietly, "What happens if I walk away?" Her golden eyes darkened with dread. Then my body will fail before the sun rises. My heart will stop. The fire will consume me. Daniel exhaled sharply. It was a choice he never wanted to face. Carry someone else's burden or let them die. She reached out suddenly, her fingers brushing his arm. The touch was light, trembling, but it felt like a spark shot through his skin. He pulled back quickly, scowling. "Careful," he muttered. But Syria's expression wasn't predatory. It was broken. Tears clung to her lashes. "I don't mean to scare you. I need you." Her voice softened, almost breaking into a plea. "Don't let me die alone." Daniel stared at her, and for the first time he saw her not as an alien, not as a danger, but as something worse, someone just as desperate as him. The fire flickered lower. Darkness crept closer around them. In that silence, the truth sank deep into Daniel's bones. He wasn't just the last human alive. He was the last hope she had, and he hated it. Syria's breathing grew heavier, and she leaned closer, her forehead almost touching his chest. Her body radiated heat like a furnace, and Daniel felt his pulse quicken in response. "This is wrong," he whispered, half to himself. But the way she looked at him, with fear, with hope, with need, made it impossible to turn away. The night stretched on, the fire dimming, the air thick with tension. Daniel kept his rifle close, but his heart was caught in a trap far more dangerous than any battlefield. And just when he thought he could push her away again, her lips trembled, and she whispered words that froze him where he sat. "If you leave me now, you'll watch me die." The fire collapsed into glowing embers. The stars above seemed cold and distant, and Daniel realized with a sinking dread, survival wasn't just about food and fire anymore. It was about choices, impossible choices. The night dragged on without mercy. Daniel sat with his rifle across his knees, staring at the faint glow of the alien girl curled near the dying fire. She was still trembling, her breaths shallow, her golden eyes fixed on him whenever they flickered. Open. He should have walked away. Every instinct screamed it. Yet he hadn't. Something about her fragile, desperate, almost human kept him rooted in place. Syria stirred, her voice breaking the silence. "You're still here." Daniel didn't look at her. "Didn't feel right to leave you two." "Burn." Her lips curled faintly, not in a smile but in relief. "Then you understand." He shook his head. "I don't understand anything. I only know trouble when I see it. And you," his eyes narrowed, "you're nothing but trouble." She winced at his words but didn't turn away. Instead, she whispered, "Maybe, but I'm still alive because of you." The fire popped, and Daniel clenched his jaw. He hated the way her voice dug into him, soft but sharp, like it carried a hook meant to catch his heart. He stood, restless, pacing near the edge of the ruins. "So this bonding," he spat the word like it was poison, "is the only thing that keeps you alive?" Syria sat up, her skin glowing faintly brighter in the dark. "Yes, without it, my body will shut down. The fire inside eats everything." Daniel stopped, turning toward her with a glare. "And you expect me to just give myself up? Like I don't get a choice?" Her golden eyes shimmered with both pain and something else longing. "You always have a choice, human, but understand. Without you, I die. With you, we both live." Daniel barked a humorless laugh. "Leave? You mean chained? I've seen enough chains in my life." Syria's head tilted, her hair falling over her glowing face. "It isn't chains, it's connection. My people called it joining. A merging of breath of will. It is survival, yes, but it is also." She hesitated, her voice softening. Closeness. Daniel's stomach twisted. He had kept people at arm's length for years, ever since the war, ever since the graves. And now this stranger, this alien, wanted to break through walls he thought unshakable. He turned away again, muttering, "Sounds like a trap to me." Syria crawled closer, her movements weak but deliberate. Then why are you still here? If I'm nothing but danger, why haven't you walked away already? Daniel froze. She was right. He should have left. He told himself it was pity, survival instinct, maybe even curiosity. But the truth whispered in the back of his mind was one he refused to admit. He didn't want to be alone anymore. He spun back toward her, anger flashing. Because I don't abandon people, even when I should. Her lips trembled, and a tear slid down her cheek, glowing faintly in the firelight. Then don't abandon me now. Daniel's chest tightened. He hated how her words felt like knives digging into old scars. He stepped closer despite himself. Her heat radiated against him, her body burning like a furnace, her breath quick and uneven. This isn't fair, he muttered. Syria lifted her eyes, golden and desperate. Survival is never fair. For a moment, the world narrowed to just them, the fire, the ruins, the weight of silence pressing all around. She leaned forward slightly, trembling, as if drawn to him by invisible threads. Daniel clenched his fists, fighting against the pull. If I give in to this, there's no going back. Her voice broke into a whisper, low and fragile. Maybe. There shouldn't be. Before he could react, she leaned forward and pressed her lips softly against his dot. The world stopped. Daniel froze. Every muscle tensed, his instincts screaming at him to push her away. But the fire of her touch, the desperation behind it, pinned him in place. Her lips burned against his, not with passion but with need, raw and urgent. When she finally pulled back, her breath shuddering, her eyes searched his face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't have, but I can't control it. Daniel stood like stone, his chest heaving. His mind screamed that this was wrong, dangerous. But another part of him, buried deep under loneliness and scars, whispered that it was the first time in years he had felt alive. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken truth. Daniel took a slow breath, his voice low, almost trembling. This bond, you say it keeps you alive, but what if it takes me apart? Syria reached out, her glowing fingers brushing his arm. Then maybe we fall together, but at least neither of us falls alone. The fire dimmed into glowing embers. The night pressed close, heavy and suffocating, and Daniel realized with dread he had already stepped across a line he could never uncross. The ruins were silent, but Daniel's instincts told him silence never lasted long. He sat with his rifle across his knees, his eyes darting to the alien girl who rested close to the dim fire. Her lips were swollen from their brief kiss, her golden eyes lowered, but her whole body still trembled with heat. Daniel cursed under his breath. That kiss had broken something, maybe in her, maybe in him. He wasn't sure which. Syria hugged her knees, her voice low. It's getting worse. He glanced at her, noting the glow in her skin had grown brighter, spreading across her arms and neck like faint burning veins. She wasn't lying, her body was fighting itself. You need to control it, Daniel muttered. You're glowing like a damn beacon. She looked up, guilt flashing in her eyes. I can't stop it. The fire is in my blood. Daniel's stomach tightened, a glowing body in the middle of the ruins. It was like ringing a dinner bell for every predator within miles. He adjusted his rifle, scanning the shadows. The night air grew heavy. The silence changed, not empty, but listening. Watching, Syria stiffened suddenly, her golden eyes widening. They're coming. Daniel's grip tightened on the rifle. What do you mean, who's coming? Her voice broke with dread. The hunters, creatures that feed on the heat, they smell it. They always come. As if summoned by her words. A distant howl echoed through the ruins. Low, guttural, too deep to be human. Daniel swore. Of course. Syria pressed closer to him, trembling. We need to hide, please. But Daniel shook his head. No, hiding makes us prey. If they catch our scent, Walls won't save us. He rose, checking his weapon, every motion sharp and controlled. He had fought enemies before. He could fight again. But he had never fought with someone clinging to his arm. Burning with desperation and fear, another howl answered the first, closer this time. Then came the scrape of claws against stone. More than one. Syria's body glowed brighter, as if her panic only fed the fire. Daniel hissed, "Turn it down, whatever you're doing, turn it off." She shook her head, tears welling. "I can't. The season won't let me, I'm sorry." The shadows shifted. Red eyes glimmered between the broken walls. 3 shapes slinked forward low to the ground, covered in jagged scales, their jaws dripping with saliva that steamed as it hit the dirt. Daniel lifted his rifle. "Stay behind me." Syria clutched his back, her heat burning through his shirt, her breath uneven against his shoulder. He forced his mind to focus, ignore the fire in her, ignore the kiss, ignore everything but survival. The first beast lunged, jaws snapping. Daniel fired. The crack echoed through the ruins, the shot tearing into the creature's skull. It collapsed, twitching, but the other 2 hissed and spread out, circling. Syria whimpered, glowing brighter, and the beasts shrieked in response. They were drawn to her light. "Damn it," Daniel muttered, firing another shot. It grazed one beast, but the other darted closer, jaws snapping at his leg. He kicked hard, sending it sprawling, but its scales ripped his boot, leaving blood streaks. Syria cried out, dropping to her knees. "They won't stop. They'll keep coming until—" She bit her lip, shaking violently. "Until the fire is calmed." Daniel gritted his teeth. Not the time. But she looked at him, desperation naked in her eyes. "You don't understand. Human, they smell me because of what I am. The only way to stop them." Her words died in her throat, but the meaning was clear. Daniel's chest tightened. Even in the middle of battle, she was begging not just for protection, but for the bond her body demanded. The beast lunged again, claws scraping the stone as it barreled toward them. Daniel swung the rifle like a club, smashing it across the jaw. The weapon cracked under the force, but the creature staggered back with a howl. He pulled Syria up roughly. "Run!" They sprinted through the ruins, Syria's glow lighting the broken walls like a torch. More howls echoed behind them. The beasts were gathering. Syria stumbled, almost falling, but Daniel dragged her forward. His blood pumped, his breath ragged, every instinct screaming that they couldn't outrun this. Not with her glowing like a star in the dark. They burst into an open courtyard, moonlight spilling across the rubble. Daniel stopped, shoving Syria behind a broken column. He raised what remained of his rifle, breathing hard. The growls came from every side now. Shadows shifted in the ruins, dozens of red eyes glinting in the dark. Syria clutched his arm, her skin burning hot enough to sting. Her voice broke into a whisper. "Daniel, if you don't choose soon, we both die." The beasts closed in, their claws scraping stone, their jaws dripping hunger. Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger, but his heart pounded with another, more dangerous thought. Maybe she was right. Maybe survival meant giving her what she asked for. The circle of predators closed, red eyes gleamed. The heat of Syria's body burned against his back, and in that terrible moment, Daniel realized the truth bullets alone wouldn't save them tonight. The courtyard was alive with sound growls, claws scraping stone, the hiss of beasts circling in the dark. Daniel stood with his broken rifle, his jaw tight, his heart racing. Syria clung to him, her glowing skin making them a target. The creatures moved closer. Their red eyes gleamed in hunger. Daniel exhaled sharply. "If we're going down, we go down fighting." Syria's golden gaze locked onto his. Her body trembled, but not from fear. The fire inside her only grew hotter with danger. "Then let me fight too." Before he could answer, one of the beasts lunged. Daniel shoved Syria aside and swung the rifle like a club, smashing the creature's skull. It fell with a hiss. But two more leapt in from the side. Syria rose with a cry. The glow in her veins surged brighter, spreading across her arms and chest. With a sudden movement, she thrust her palms forward. A burst of heat exploded outward, slamming into the beasts. They screeched, their scales sizzling, stumbling back. Daniel blinked, stunned. What the hell was that? Syria panted, clutching. Her chest. The fire inside me, it can burn outward. But it costs me strength. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then use it carefully. The beast circled again, cautious now. Daniel reloaded the last round he had left. On my mark, he muttered. We take them together. Syria nodded, golden eyes glowing like molten suns. The creatures struck as one. Daniel fired, dropping the closest with a clean shot. Another slammed into him from the side, sending him sprawling. Its jaws snapped inches from his throat. Daniel grunted, shoving against its weight. Daniel! Syria's scream tore through the night. She rushed forward, her hands blazing. She pressed them against the creature's side, and the beast howled as smoke rose from its scales. It leapt back, leaving charred scars where she touched it. Daniel scrambled to his feet, blood dripping from a cut on his arm. Remind me not to get on your bad side. She almost smiled through her fear. Then don't leave my side. The next wave came. 3 more, faster, hungrier. Daniel swung his rifle. Syria unleashed bursts of heat, and together they carved a circle of survival. He fought with precision, short, brutal strikes. She fought with desperation, her glow flaring like a beacon every time her fire erupted. But with each blast, her body weakened. Her knees shook, her breathing ragged. Daniel saw it and moved closer, covering her with his own body when her strength faltered. You're burning yourself out, he shouted. Her eyes met his, desperate and shining. I told you. The fire is killing me already. Better to burn for you than burn alone. Her words cut deeper than any claws. Daniel gritted his teeth and fought harder. Every swing of his weapon, every drop of blood, was fueled not just by survival, but by the thought of losing her. The courtyard stank of smoke and blood. One by one, the beasts fell. At last, silence returned, broken only by the crackle of flames. And Syria's labored breathing. Daniel dropped the broken rifle, his chest heaving. His arms ached, blood trickling down, but he was alive. They both were. Syria collapsed against a fallen stone, her skin glowing faintly, her face pale. She was shaking violently now, her body consumed by the fire she had unleashed. Daniel knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. Hey, stay with me. Her golden eyes fluttered open, weak but steady. You fought for me, he swallowed hard. Don't get used to it. But his hands stayed on her shoulders longer than they should have. Her heat seeped into his skin, wrapping around him like something alive. He hated how part of him didn't want to let go. Syria's lips parted, trembling. I told you, human. The fire only grows stronger if you don't. If we don't, she broke off, too weak to finish. Daniel's gut twisted. He had pushed the truth away since she first spoke it, but now it came crashing down. The fight wasn't over. The beasts were only the beginning. Her fire, the season, was the real threat. He looked at her, fragile and glowing, barely holding on. He thought of the war, the graves, the years alone. And he realized that saving her might mean losing himself. Before he could speak, a sound echoed through the ruins. Not a growl, not a beast. Something sharper, metallic, a gunshot. The bullet struck the stone near his head, sending chips of rock flying. Daniel's eyes widened. He pulled Syria close, shielding her. From the shadows beyond the courtyard, new voices rang out. Human voices, rough, armed. Well, one of them sneered. Looks like the last man alive isn't alone after all. Daniel's blood ran Cold. The beasts had been bad enough. But men? Men were worse. And now they had found him. Asterisk, the echo of the gunshot still rang in Daniel's ears. He pressed Syria close against the stone, his heartbeat pounding as rough voices drifted out of the ruins. Didn't I tell you? One of them chuckled. Where there's smoke, there's meat. Another voice answered, cold and sharp. Not just meat. Look at that glow, that's alien. Could fetch a fortune. Syria stiffened, her trembling hands clutching Daniel's shirt. Humans, she whispered, her golden eyes wide with fear. Not like you, not kind. Daniel's jaw tightened. They're not kind. They're scavengers. Boots crunched over stone as three figures stepped into the moonlight. Their faces were rough, scarred by years of survival. Two carried rifles, the third held a jagged blade. All of them looked hungry, not for food, but for power. Well. The leader sneered, his rifle slung lazily across his shoulder. Last man alive, huh? Guess you're not so alone after all. His eyes slid to Syria, glowing weakly in the shadows. Pretty thing, ain't she? Worth more than water out here. Daniel rose slowly, his own broken rifle gripped in his hands. She's not for trade, the men laughed. One spat on the ground. Everything's for trade, friend. Out here, it's the only law that matters. Daniel shifted his stance, placing himself squarely in front of Syria. His eyes were cold, his voice low. You'll have to go through me. The leader smirked. That was the plan. The standoff stretched. Syria's trembling grew worse. She leaned close to Daniel's ear, her whisper desperate. You can't fight them all, not in your state. Please, we must run. Daniel didn't answer. He weighed the rifle in his hands. One bullet left. Maybe 2 lives he could take before. They overwhelmed him, but Syria, she wouldn't survive capture. They would use her, break her, sell her. The thought made his stomach twist. He exhaled slowly. Then I'll make my stand here. Syria's golden eyes shimmered with tears. Daniel, don't throw yourself away. Not for me. Her words cut deep, but Daniel didn't waver. He had been alone too long. He wasn't about to lose the one fragile thread that made him feel human again. The leader raised his rifle. Last chance, stranger. Step aside, and we'll let you live. Daniel barked a bitter laugh. That's a lie. And I don't deal with liars. The man's smile faded. His finger curled around the trigger. Then before the shot rang out, Syria moved. She stepped from behind Daniel, her skin flaring with sudden light. The glow that had marked her as prey now burned brighter than ever, filling the courtyard with golden fire. The scavengers cursed, shielding their eyes. Daniel grabbed her arm in shock. What are you doing? Her voice shook, but her resolve was iron. You saved me from beasts. Let me save you from men. Her body pulsed with heat. A wave of burning air swept outward, striking the nearest scavenger and sending him crashing to the ground with a scream. The others staggered back, stunned. Daniel dragged her close again. You'll kill yourself. She met his eyes, her glow fierce and wild. Better I burn out than fall into their hands. Daniel's chest tightened. This was the moment, the line he couldn't avoid anymore. He had a choice. Let her fight alone, using up what little life she had left. Or step into her fire, accept the bond she had begged for, and fight as one. The scavengers recovered quickly. One aimed his rifle, another charged with a blade. Daniel's instincts screamed at him to move, to shoot, to swing. But Syria's words cut louder. If we don't bond, I die. His hand tightened on her arm. His eyes locked onto hers. For the first time, he didn't look away. You said the bond keeps you alive, he growled. Then show me how. Her lips parted in shock. Her glow flared brighter, like a star about to explode. Daniel, if you do this, there's no turning back. The blade-wielding scavenger lunged. Daniel pulled Syria into him, pressing his forehead to hers. Then no turning back. Her fire erupted, wrapping around them both. The world dissolved. In golden heat, the courtyard shaking with energy, the scavengers staggered, shielding their faces from the blinding light. And in that instant, Daniel felt it, the bond. Not just heat, not just instinct, but a thread weaving into his very soul. Her fire burned inside him, filling his veins, making him stronger. And terrifyingly alive, the leader cursed, stumbling back. What the hell are they? The light dimmed just enough to reveal Daniel, his eyes burning gold to match hers, standing with Siria's hand locked in his dot, and for the first time, the scavengers looked afraid. The courtyard blazed with golden light. Daniel stood with Siria's hand locked in his eyes burning the same molten fire as hers. The bond was real. He could feel her inside him, her heartbeat racing in his chest, her fear and her hope. Threading into his own, the scavengers froze, their weapons trembling in their hands. What are they? One STAMMERED. The leader snarled, trying to hide his fear. Doesn't matter. Shoot them. The rifles cracked. Bullets tore through the air. But Daniel was no longer just Daniel. His body moved faster, sharper, guided by the fire coursing through him. He yanked Siria close, spinning her behind him, and lifted his broken rifle. The heat from their bond surged down his arms, and when he swung, the weapon struck like iron wrapped in flame. The bullet meant for Siria flattened against the glowing aura that rippled from their skin. Siria raised her hands, her glow surging brighter, and waves of searing heat pulsed outward. The ground shook. The scavengers screamed, stumbling back. As their rifles warped in their hands from the heat, Daniel lunged forward. His fist slammed into one man's chest, the force sending him flying across the courtyard. Another tried to slash with his blade, but Daniel caught his arm, twisting until bone cracked. The scavenger fell with a howl. The leader cursed, retreating toward the shadows. This isn't over. We'll come back with more. He never finished. Siria's fire lashed out, a ribbon of golden heat striking the ground before him, cutting off his escape. Her golden eyes narrowed, her voice trembling with fury. No more hunting. No more chains. Daniel stepped beside her, his golden aura flaring. Run and tell the others, if they come for us, they'll burn. The leader's bravado broke. He scrambled back, dragging one of his injured men. The scavengers vanished into the ruins, their shouts fading into the distance. Silence returned at last. Daniel staggered, his chest heaving. The fire inside him pulsed wildly, not his, not entirely. He dropped to one knee, his hand gripping the ground. Siria knelt beside him, her hands glowing softly as she cupped his face. You feel it now, the bond. He swallowed hard, his voice raw. It's like you're in me, every thought, every breath. Her golden eyes softened. Because we are joined. You chose, Daniel. You're mine now. And I am yours. He wanted to argue, to push away, to reclaim the walls he had lived behind for years. But her touch was warm, steady, alive. For the first time in too long, he felt something more than survival. He felt connection. Daniel leaned back against the stone, his laughter bitter but full of relief. Hell of a way to make friends. Siria's lips curved into a faint smile, her heat dimming into something gentle. Not friends, more. The fire between them steadied, no longer wild and consuming, but balanced. Her needs soothed, his loneliness eased. Their bond was not a cage. It was a lifeline. For a moment, they sat in silence, their foreheads touching, their breaths shared. The ruins around them felt less empty. The night sky above less cold, but Daniel's soldier mind never rested. He looked toward the shadows where the scavengers had fled. They'll be back, with more guns. More men. Siria's hand tightened around his. Then we'll face them. Together. He studied her golden eyes, seeing not just desperation now, but strength. She wasn't just a burden. She was his partner. His fire. Daniel nodded slowly. Together. They rose side by side, the bond thrumming between them like a living thing. The courtyard was littered with bodies and broken stone, but the firelight wrapped around them both, making the ruins feel less like a graveyard and more like the start of something new. Syria leaned close, her lips brushing his ear, her voice soft but filled with promise. The season will come again, human. And when it does, her smile glowed brighter than her skin. You'll still be mine. Daniel exhaled, half a laugh, half a sigh, his eyes locked on hers. Guess I don't get a choice anymore. She shook her head gently. You always have a choice. And you chose me. Above them, the stars burned cold and distant. But for Daniel and Syria, the fire in their veins was enough. For the first time, survival wasn't just about living another day. It was about living together. And in the ruins of a dead world, that was more than survival. It was hope.